I'd like to just be able to show you some of the things that are going on here. And right now we're standing overlooking a cornfield with the jungle behind us. And it's a beautiful March day. The problem is it just happens to be the 11th of October. We're kind of dry. It's been, the weather is always very irregular this year. Most years it's very dependable, but this year it's very irregular, and sometimes we've had just not near enough rain. Other times we got 7 inches in one go around, and so all of that added together, we have to learn how to deal with the weather. But we're actually having a fair harvest. We're fair being close to our average, maybe a little bit less, but the weather was telling us that it was so irregular, we didn't know really what to expect. So we're really pretty thankful for what we got. But the progress over the last several years has been really good, and part of this video that I want to share with you is about a little bit about growing, not much, but mostly about processing and shipping and loading out what we do at the grain handling center. So I'm going to hang this up right now, and we're going to make a move to the grain handling center. I'm so happy you could join me this morning. Thank you. I'd like to talk a little bit about that John Deere 9400 that's on tracks. When you run over wet ground with tracks, it reduces the compaction. And if you get too much compaction, the ground gets too tight, moisture and nutrients can't pass through it the way they like to. So we try to keep compaction at a minimum, and that John Deere tractor on tracks helps that operation. We're pulling behind this big heavy disc. It's the first disc that we pull after we combine the corn off, because it really does turn everything under and agitate the soil. It's a great disc. Actually, it come out of Minnesota, and Nathan and Daniel found it in Minnesota and brought it down here. Over here, we have a sunflower field finisher. It's got 4 operations. It's got a disc in front and some shanks in back with blades, and then it's got a roller, and then it's got a harrow behind it. And it's what you use just before you plant. It makes a beautiful seed bed for the corn to come up in. Seed bed is extremely important. One of the things that has to happen is you have to harvest that corn. You have to take it out of the field. And you saw me in a picture with some ears. Well, when it goes through this combine, the ears go into kernels, and what we load out of this combine, it separates the stalks and the center of the ear, and just leaves it with the yellow small kernels. That's a magnificent process that has been around quite a while. This is a John Deere 9600. It comes from, I believe, Nebraska someplace. It's an 8-row. Corn grows in 30-inch rows, and this does 8 rows at a time. And obviously, when it's time to harvest, that's the most important time. And we have some very good caretakers that take care of this combine, and Levi and his son take care of this combine. And it's maybe the most important machine on Banana Bay, and it works really good. You know, in this farming operation, there's a lot of different steps to it, and we talked a little bit about planting and etc. and soil preparation. Now, after you get that done, you have to eventually have a harvest, and then eventually you have to process it, dry it, and prepare it for marketing. So that's what this little shot's going to be about here, is processing the grain in preparation for marketing. So that's what we're talking about. So if you look off over here to my right, you will see the big leg. Look at the big leg. That leg is about 100 feet tall, and it feeds into the dryers and other areas to move the grain from the field into the dryer. That big square deal is a dryer. It's run on butane, and it dries the corn from normally around 19 or 22 down to 14 and a half. So we try to dry the corn down that. So that's the drying operation. And also there's cleaners there that clean the corn and take out the foreign material, be there weeds or broken kernels or whatever. It all comes out of there. Then after we process it, and then we move it into these tanks. And these tanks hold the grain in preparation for transfer to the final owner that's going to either make animal feed or human feed out of it. And so that's going to be the storage tanks that we're working with right now. So it's all part of the step, and the storage is a big part of it. Now the part that I'm going to move to, we're going to change locations, and I'm going to move into the marketing, because we're going to talk about marketing and trying to working toward finally the reason that we're growing this stuff. The reason that we're growing this stuff is to find a buyer, and hopefully we're able to sell it for more than it cost us to produce. That takes a long time sometimes to build up a reputation with your product, that the buyer really likes doing business with you, and you like doing business with the buyer. You know that his money is good, and he knows that he can depend on you for the quality of product that you're shipping. That's all the rudiments of marketing, whether it's marbles or corn or cattle or horses or cowboy hats. It's the same thing. Everybody wants a good product for the price, and that's what we want at Banana Bank Agco as well. We'd like to get paid well for our product. So now I'm going to move in, and I'm going to show you some of the transfers and transportation that's happening at Banana Bank this morning on October 11th, 2015. Right now, the corn that we're shipping has already been cleaned, it's dried, and we think it's ready for final inspection at the consumer end. And so we're loading this corn. It's interesting that we're using a belt conveyor to load the corn, because our experience has told us that when we use augers, it tends to damage the corn. So that's why we're using legs and air movement and belt conveyors to keep the corn in the best condition possible without cracks or broken kernels, etc., etc. So that's all happened right now. The final cleaning has been done with the cleaner on the other side, and now this corn is being loaded in transit. So we're going to show, this morning we happen to have a dozen trucks here loading corn, and it's going to take us a little while. That'll be something that we'll move toward, but we're loading a dozen trucks here and getting ready to move the corn. We're going to be shipping this corn to Guatemala. We found a buyer in Guatemala, and so we're moving this corn to Guatemala through the border legally. Sometimes some corn goes through the back illegally, but we are moving our corn through the front legally. And it's been an experience for Nathan and his crew to develop this market in Guatemala. It's been a great experience, and it takes a couple years. We've been working at it, I would say, 5 years. We've been working on developing this market of corn in Guatemala. Guatemala has 14 million people, and they need 14 million 100-pound bags of corn a year. Most of it they get from the United States. But Belize is unique in that it's the only country south of Texas in Central America or the Caribbean has excess corn. Everybody else, every other country is an importer, but we are an exporter. We produce over half of what we need here, at the end of the day, that's around 700,000 bags of corn, a bag being 100 pounds. So Guatemala is just 35 miles to the border. Unfortunately, it's about 400 miles to the population center, which is in Guatemala City. It's a long distance to Guatemala City. It takes 400 miles with these trucks. It takes a while to get there and to load and deliver the corn to Guatemala. This is the corn just as it comes out of the combine. It's amazing what a good job this machine is doing. It's so clean and the corn is so beautiful. I love the use of this. Pull up a little closer, Carolyn. You can see. I don't understand Spanish, but I think that this guy, as he's driving down the road, there's something he's thinking about Jesus. There's something dealing with the safety of the highway. And this is a beautiful truck. These guys drive really, really nice equipment. Well, I'm going to sum up this video about this morning on what's going on at Banana Bank Agco in the grain. Give a little glimpse of the grain, the harvest, and the processing, and finally the loading for delivery. I wish I could show you a picture of a check or checkbook, because that's why we're doing it all. We hope to get paid enough that we can farm again next year, and maybe we'll need to buy another piece of equipment or do something, but it's an exciting life. It's a good life. It's very organic. But I'd not be telling the truth if I said it didn't have its challenges. It does have its challenges, and we're so dependent on the weather. The weather is such a big factor. And, it seems like weather around the world isn't as dependable as it was a while back. I don't know if it's a God thing, or if it's climate change, or if it's El Nino or what, but anyway, we're going to have enough food for the people in our country to eat, and it's been a great pleasure with this little short text of what's happening this morning at Banana Bank Agco.